1.
All right, welcome to the second Fragments of Silicon review of the week. Up this time is a game called Cooking Witch, and there's really no other way to put it. It is what it says on the tin.
Well, no, because I was thinking it would be like Cooking Mama, and it's not.
No, well, you are a witch, and you are, well, cooking.
Yeah, well, sort of cooking. If by cooking you mean dumping kids with pumpkins for heads into a cauldron and collecting the meat and time that they drop.
I would call that cooking. I mean, it's, yeah.
Well,
Cooking.
remind me not to eat any meals that you've prepared then.
Cooking in its loosest definition.
I'm like, well, no, this is the traditional depiction of what witches do in folklore and fairy tales.
Yep. True.
Eating children.
Eating children.
Yeah, eating children, throwing them into a pot, and all that shit. Like, yeah, you're not playing a good witch here.
Sorry, I'm playing a witch in my Pathfinder game currently, so I'm slightly biased.
I'm like, I almost wish Naka was here because I really want to see his utter confusion over this game. Because, I think I mentioned on Wednesday, because after playing this, I really don't know if Naka would love this game or hate it, because I'm like, aesthetically, it's right up his alley, right down to, tiny witch, yada, yada, yada. But on the other hand, and
she is pretty tiny. She's about the size of the larger kids.
Yeah. I'm like, on the other hand, also aesthetically, she's a cute witch. She's not old and warty and green and all that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but on the other hand, she's cooking children. Granted, they're pumpkin children, although somehow that equates to drumsticks.
Yeah, and the dads are definitely humanish.
Yes.
And you can cook them too, so.
Yeah, so, not, it's like that's some visual dissonance there, but like I said, that may be the least of the problems here. Like I said, granted, your stance on cooking pumpkin children may be subjective since, they're pumpkin children.
Mm-hmm.
Yet it still gets disturbing. There's no other way to put it. Because, you're grabbing the children and, they're crying until you drop them, and either they land in the pot or they land on the ground. Now, they're probably not surviving either way. In fact, there is a star/achievement, for getting what they call a fatal drop.
Oh, there are several. There's one for increasing numbers of them.
Yes, like, and there's not a lot to this game. Like,
yeah, it's like one or two steps above a clicker game.
Yeah, which isn't surprising, given the developer and publisher of this game. I've been trying to figure out how to pronounce this. It's like Vagaret P Studios or Vagaret. It's VARAGTP. Like,
yeah, Variegat probably. I don't know.
Variegat, but I'm like, we got an extra P here. Like, so, like I said, this is something I need to hear before I could pronounce it correctly, because I'm like, your guess is as good as mine. But it's worth noting, yeah, it's not a surprise that this is just a couple sections above a clicker game, because, well, this developer has developed and published clicker games, including a game we reviewed last year in Plantera.
which was a lot more cute, or more cute. And actually, this witch, it does have kind of a warty nose, it looks like. But anyway,
Well, it's kind of hard to tell because she is that.
yeah,
faint.
the pixels are very small.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah, it's like-
Plantera was much more innocent.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is, I don't know, lighthearted twistedness. I'm not exactly sure what you would call it, but it's a very simple action game. You might think it was a mobile game, given not just the premise, the using of the mouse, but it's laid out. It's got the yellow stars, and your ultimate your initial goal is to get upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, the more children you grab, the more drumsticks you get, which is actually your currency.
I actually found it the way that it works fairly interesting in terms of it's for short play sessions, but with fairly strong meta progression.
Right.
Because actually, when you start playing, it's not like most clicker games that run forever. Each session you play, starting when you fly over the cauldron and into the playable area, you have a pretty short amount of time to play, but you can extend that time by some of the things you cook drop stars that increase your time. You can tell what a kid will drop by what color they are.
Yes, and there's a chart that will tell you what kid drops what. And
I don't know what the dads drop or if that's random, but yeah.
I think they drop everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I forget if they drop hearts, but point of order
yeah, but
is
it's also amounts too. Like each of the the green kids drop 3 time stars and 1 meat. The fat yellow kids drop like 3 meat and 1 time star.
Yeah. It's like you've also got different scales of kids. You got the thin ones, you got the small ones, you got the fat ones. And this is important because you have a stamina meter. The heavier the kid, the quicker it drains.
And the slower you move while you're holding it, because those are separate things you can upgrade.
Right. These are things that will be mitigated by upgrades. You will get faster brooms. You will get hooks that can carry more children.
Because by default, you can only carry 1.
Yeah.
Which is slow.
Yeah. You will get upgrades to your health, your stamina, and your speed.
And you can also get upgrades to your cauldron that increase the amount of things that come out of each thing that you cook.
Right. And item upgrades are unlocked via star progression.
Mm-hmm.
And
which is done by completing certain missions during your play.
Right. And the interesting thing about the star progression is it remembers every playthrough. Like, if you have a mission to say cook 10 green children, you don't have to do that in one go. If you cook 3, then it will remember you cooked 3 of them, and then you just have 7 to go.
Mm-hmm. Which is much better than the other way.
Right. Because this game is literally designed around, playing it for, say, 10 minutes at most.
Yeah, doing a few runs and upgrading stuff from that.
Disturbing aesthetics aside, it gets really repetitive and crampy.
If this was like Fishing Witch, then it would be a lot more appealing, sort of, but the play style works kind of.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have too much of a problem with the aesthetical clashes. It was more, just holding down the mouse and doing all these quick movements. My hand was starting to cramp there, especially when you start getting the upgrades and you can go for longer play sessions.
Because you're getting more time stars. One thing I found a little awkward was you control your speed by moving your cursor further away from the target. Which means that if you're going above a certain speed, or if you're chasing something that's run away from you, you have a hard time clicking on the thing to pick it up necessarily. sometimes.
True enough. Let's see. The graphics, I actually find a bit of a mixed bag. Um, like in terms of visual fidelity, it's actually quite an order above Plantera, which was actually quite simple in terms of design in comparison. Like it's got very elaborate backgrounds and sprite work. What I didn't like was the actual size of the sprites.
Yeah, they're a little bit on the small side.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, they're just too small in my estimation. Yeah.
Which I was forcing the game to run in Windows mode because I hate full screen on my left monitor, but
Yeah.
Even when I did briefly play it in full screen, stuff was a little on the small side.
I suppose. And as far as the ultimate point of the game, score attack. All of the upgrades, all of the everything is lined up to get more points.
Yeah, and there's an online leaderboard that it shows you every in-between missions.
Right. And I'm like, I think like the highest was what, 20,000? Something like that? I don't know.
In that
I'll be
area,
honest.
it was in tens of thousands.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Personally, I could not give any hint of shit about online leaderboards, but some people care about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I never really care about score attack stuff.
Me neither.
No.
Except when it can be used as a measure of perfect play, and even then I don't usually bother. And in this game, there's definitely no perfect play. It's all very,
Random.
works for you.
Yeah. I'm like, anyway, your main antagonists are the dads. They'll show up after you've gathered up some kids and hooked them up, and they will start shooting at you.
With shotguns.
Mhm.
Or elephant guns, or whatever you call those. The shotguns with the really wide, cartoony noses.
Right.
And the dads look like, I don't know, Duck Dynasty guys. They got big noses and hats and wear flannel and beards.
And you can get rid of them by stunning them.
You drop a kid on them, and then you can pick them up and cook them.
Yeah, and that'll take them temporarily out of play, but you'll never be able to get rid of them entirely.
I'm not sure there may be a limit of the number of dads you can get in one run.
Possibly, but I never tested it. Other obstacles include rockets and shooting stars.
Which is really weird because those things are really hard to notice, and they look kind of like just part of the background, and then you realize that they're hurting you.
Indeed. Like, I suppose another problem I had with the visuals is that it's a bit too busy. Wow. But anyway, the music is curious because
It's like classical march music.
No, well, it can be summed up in two words: public domain.
Mm-hmm.
Like the title track is Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. And I guess the thematic thing is you're playing at night. The moonlight is out there, and you play until the morning. When the morning comes, when you hear the rooster crow, the play session ends.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'm trying to remember. I think the Star Spangled Banner plays as the
or
as
the tune
actual,
of the Star Spangled Banner, which is
it's definitely John Philip Sousa.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like this thing has kind of like.
I don't recognize marching music very much, but it's definitely mostly that kind of thing.
I think it's Stars
or big band, whatever.
It looks to me like it's almost like a GTA like system here. Like the more kids you get, the more dads come out. Because I started throwing kids in the pot, and
3.
And well, that's about it. If I'm being honest, like I said,
it's a very simple game. There's not a whole lot to say about it, aside from the fact that if the concept sounds like it squicks you out, it probably does.
Well, and I guess something else to note: if you want to play it in windowed mode, it forces the window on top. So you can't like move it, or well, you can move, but you can't like click behind it or bring something else in front of it. So that is kind of a pain if you only have single monitor.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose the great redeeming factor here is the price. Because
yeah, this is a super cheap game, which makes sense because there's so little of it.
Yeah, I'm like, when it was first released, it was on sale for $1.50. It's going for $2. I'm like, I'll be honest. I find this to be a below average game. Fairly tedious and simple, and
But it's not unreasonable for lunch money.
yeah, it's like it's $2. Even if you don't like it, it's $2.
Yeah,
You know,
although this again would be something that would be better on mobile. Like, something
definitely.
to kill like 5 minutes while you're waiting for something or whatever.
Yeah.
But for console, I don't really see its purpose. Or not console, but actual PCs, I don't really see its purpose.
Yeah, I'm like, I'll be honest. I was a bigger fan of Plantera.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't that high on the game, but I liked the, relaxation factor there.
Mm-hmm.
So, ultimately, a very slight recommendation. You just based off of how cheap it is.
Yeah, it's only like a 4 or 5 out of 10 game, really, but it's really, really cheap. So
I'm like, yeah, our recommendations can be weird, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like
But,
it's not the worst thing I've ever played, but
Yeah, it's a decent time killer. There's a reasonable amount of skill involved if you want to get good at it.
yeah, it's like there's some investment here, but I'm like,
I'm
there's
pretty sure
something
some of those leaderboards are bots, though.
wouldn't surprise me. I, this is probably not being patrolled with Valve anti-cheat software. Anyway, so I guess that'll about do it for this week in our reviews. So the week ahead, right? All right. I can actually announce what we're doing on MSP this week because the guest is notable enough for me to remember. Like, we're having Richard Epcar on the program.
Oh man,
Like,
that's a guy who you've probably heard of if you like anime and stuff.
Yeah, you may not have heard his name, but you probably heard his voice in something.
A lot of something. Let's be real here.
Yeah. I'm like, he's probably best known as Bato from Ghost of the Shell.
Or any other character that sounds like that, probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a good example is like Gundam Unicorn. He was using the Bato voice.
Mm-hmm. Wait, who was he in Unicorn? Full Frontal?
No, he was that one guy who died halfway through.
Oh yeah.
It's like
something spoilers.
Anyway,
not really. He's one of those kind of slightly cool older military guys who usually have the purpose of dying so that the younger, more fashionable protagonist has incentives to do stuff.
Anyway, other important and notable roles, he's Jigen in Lupin the Third. I'm like, he's Jonathan Joestar, well, older Jonathan Joestar. There's a ton of roles here. We're probably breaking format for this one. Max said he's probably going to be the only one who's delivering news on MSP this week because, well, this is a guest notable enough to have a 45 to an hour conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, unless he needs time to get ready at the beginning or something.
Yeah. So that's kind of the main event this week. But as far as Fragments of Silicon goes, let's see. We got a Tuesday interview, Tuesday morning, usual time, 11 a.m. We'll be having Steve Philby of Motion Twin. they've been a developer of a lot of web games and mobile games, but they've recently stepped up to something more ambitious in a game called Dead Cells, um, which is a roguelike Metroidvania game. I'm like, I've played about a half an hour so far. It's actually really polished, even in its current early access state. Now, it I really liked what I've played so far. Um, and coming up on the main show, we'll be having Richard Nava of Happy Badger Games. Yeah, another developer that's done a ton of games, I think a ton of one. I think they're web games, but anyway, their latest is Smugglecraft, a roguelike racer game. Like, um, I haven't gotten any codes for this one. Um, how do I put this? I hope it plays better than it looks. I'm like, I've seen the trail and the gameplay footage, and I'm like, it looks pretty minimalistic. Maybe that's what they're going for. Now, more on that on Wednesday. And next week in reviews, we've got two of them. First up, we've got X-Field Paintball 3. This is a multiplayer paintball game. We were supposed to do this game this week, but some problems arose.
Mm-hmm.
We've been waiting for them to iron themselves out. Not the least of which, it was one of those games where the codes we got were only good for preview builds. Once they switched to regular release builds, our codes expired. So that's a good day to fix. And apparently, there's a lot of other problems. I haven't actually looked into Xfield yet because, well, there were other games to play.
Yeah. It's like there may or may not be footage of this game because if it wants to lock to full screen, I can't record it with my software I use.
Yeah, we're probably going to be doing a Friday gameplay session here, nonetheless, because well, it's built around multiplayer, so
yeah, whether that's streamed or not depends on again if I can actually capture it.
And our second game is I'm trying to figure out how to pronounce this. I think it's Zombidal.
I thought it was Zombidal.
Yeah, I think it's Zombidal.
Yeah, combination of zombie and idol.
Yeah. Zombidal Remonstered. This is it's a bit weird because the press release called it an RPG, but the Steam page calls it what it actually is. It's a tapper game.
So that's an interesting combination of things that they're trying to be.
Yeah, I'm like, it's free to play, and I was actually given a code, but as it turns out, it's an actual cheat code to get some progress in there. Like, I'll have to post the instructions sometime this week. I'm like I said, this is a bit of a curio because, well, as it should be no surprise, it was originally a mobile game. It being a tapper game. But it's come to Steam. I imagine it's more in the style of what Naka likes to play from time to time. But more on that next week. And until such time, until Tuesday, I wish you good gaming.